We are going to go over the radiology assistant checklist and the clinical assistant checklist today. First thing you're going to want to do as the RA is come in 15 minutes prior to clinic time, and the very first thing you want to do is turn on the automatic processor. Both the automatic processor, the daylight processor, flip it on, and the darkroom processor. After turning on the processor, the next thing you want to do is run the cleaning film, and I am sure that this has been something that you've talked about in radiology with Mrs. Lancy. You're going to run the cleaning film in both processors in the darkroom and the daylight processor, both clinics, the morning clinic and the afternoon clinic. The next thing as radiology assistant that you need to do is you need to come up and get 5 films from the instructor at the instructor desk. These films are to be single packet films that are to be used to test the exposure of the x-ray machine. So we're going to show you how to do that now. When you receive your film, you are going to want to place the film in the copper holder, emulsion side up, and just slide it in. The next thing you want to do is place it on the arm of the chair and line the PID up. Whoop. If you can get it lined up, I'm going to take this off so that we have a better picture. You're going to line the PID up over the circle that's on the film holder. Then, of course, we are going to leave the room and expose the film. Once the film is exposed, you're going to take the film and you're going to place it behind the darkened film in the holder. There are little numbers on the darkened film. 3, 4, and 5 are the acceptable levels of exposure here at IPFW. Once you have the correct exposure, and we know that the units are calibrated, you will then come over and write the date, the density on the film, and whether it matches and it's acceptable in all units, including the 5th unit over in Clinic B. The next big duty, we need to look and double check both the fixer and the developer that the processor uses. This can be found underneath both processors in the darkroom and the daylight processor. When we open the cabinet and we look at the fixer and developer, you can see on this fixer and developer that the solution is below the line on the bottle. This is a good time to change the fixer and developer. Go. Using gloved hands, we want to remove the tops of the bottle one at a time. Set the old one aside and replace it with the new one. Make sure that the lid is very tight-fitting so that none of the solution fills. And we're going to proceed to do the same with the developer, making sure, once again, that we don't mix solutions. Now that those have been changed, one of the other things we need to do is always check the recycling of the silver recovery bucket. The one thing you need to make sure you do is before you empty this bucket into the large bucket in the darkroom is make sure that all the solution has come out of the tubing. Sometimes if you lift this up, there will be more solution that will drain out. If that solution doesn't drain out, then you will have a water mess that you'll need to clean up. This solution that's in here will be poured into the large white buckets, which we will show you found in the dark room. Replace the lid. It doesn't need to be tight, but it needs to be fitted. And then the processor, the daylight loader here, is ready to go. Replace the lid. It doesn't need to be tight, but it needs to be fitted. And then the processor, the daylight loader here, is ready to go. Since we have a little extra fixer and developer left from the auto processor from the daylight loader, we are going to refill the auto processor here in the dark room with the extra fixer and the extra developer. Once again, making sure that we do not combine solutions. How you do this is you just remove the lid and over the sink, pour the fixer into the fixer. Be sure not to overflow. Always make sure that you mix fixer with fixer and developer with developer, and that we do not mix solutions. Otherwise the auto processor won't work. Once it's full, replace the lid. And now we have a full bottle of fixer. If the bottles, the used bottles, start to have a brown look about them, or the solution starts to look slightly cloudy, it is okay to discard this solution. This is old solution and your films may not process properly. In that case, what you need to do is discard the solution down the sink, and what you will do is actually pour the solutions. This is the only time you can mix the solutions, but we will pour the solutions at the same time into the drain. By pouring them together, we are actually neutralizing the acids, and they are safe to go down into the city waste disposal systems. I'm also going to show you while we're in here the recovery bucket for the darkroom processor. The silver recovery bucket can be found in the cabinet under the sink. And once again, you'll want to make sure that there is no fluid coming out of the hose before lifting the lid. With this silver recovery bucket, you are going to then put the liquid into the large containers that are found here in the darkroom. You do this by lifting the lid on the large containers and by slowly pouring the liquid into the bigger containers. Now, if you have a lot of liquid in this small container, the liquid will fill up in this big container quite quickly. Just wait and have patience because the liquid will drain. So this might be a process that might take more than 30 seconds. You may have to come and empty the small container into the big container throughout the day. Of course, we're going to then replace the container under the cabinet. Make sure the lid is back on so that the liquid goes into the bucket and not onto the cabinet, and close the door. If you need to replace the fixer and developer, the place you can find the fixer and developer is in the cabinet back in the radiology area. And as you can see, there is very little fixer here in the cabinet where it's supposed to be. If you find this to be the case, the extra fixer and developer can be found in the dental assisting locker room. They come in large boxes, so you will need a cart. Don't try to carry the boxes, they're very heavy. When you open the boxes, you will remove the fixer and the developer, placing it in the cabinet, along with the black and red sponges that come along with it. These are for when you need to clean the auto processor. We'll fill these up until there's plenty of fixer and developer left, so that when you're CA or RA the next time, this job is made that much easier.